And I just realized I haven't started the recording yet. So, welcome back. Again, you're listening to Bass Tunes, KCI 8.9 FM. If you ever want to say anything to me, Kuc, nope, that's not it. You got to follow BASEDTUNESKUCI on Instagram. I'm going to be posting stuff there. Again, this is like the 8th week of the show. I'm pressing it. I'm doing it. I'm going to keep promoting because I am going to keep the bass movement alive. Now, this is going to be a difficult episode to talk about in a little bit. Because with the nature of Sweet Trip as a band and the disturbing events that occurred between Roby Burgos to Valerie Cooper, the female artist is Valerie and the male artist is Roby, or Roberto. But people call him Roby, right? And they're sort of a duo, of course. You got other people in there, but the main creative force behind this band. So what even is Sweet Trip? Well, it's an experimental pop group, an electronic and rock group formed in 1993 in the Bay Area by Valerie Cooper and Roberto Burgos. I said that right. And they had a bit of a cult following online after releasing their second album, especially when the website Rate Your Music came out, which I'm going to be referencing a little bit, which inspired my wanting to discuss this album. But their second album, Velocity Design Comfort, is a bit more of a critical darling. It's more electronic-y, IDM, shoegaze hybrid, all this stuff. I personally prefer their third album, which is the one that we're going to be talking about today. Velocity Design Comfort, released in 2003, and You Will Never Know Why, released in 2009. And they took a long hiatus, of course, but this album sort of shifts into a more traditional indie pop type thing. It's more poppy, there's more rock stuff in there, more traditional guitar, not as noisy, but it's still got that electronic influence that people really, really, really like about Sweet Trip. So basically, it's pretty freaking cool. It's pretty interesting because, of course, they wanted more structured stuff, and I do think this album really does benefit from that. And that's sort of the biggest thing. It's a more traditional album. But lyrically, I'm a massive fan of it. Musically, I'm also a massive fan of it. It's calming, and frankly, it's dark. Lyrically, this album is quite dark, I would say. At least compared to, their other albums and things like that, right? Right. We can talk about the lyrics of this album, like the song that you just heard, which is Air Supply. Don't you make me smile if you don't intend to. Only maybe try if you pretend to. Here's my mission, my reason, my statement. Keep with me, love, pretend to. Came with my love undercover till we seduced each other. And many nights that don't follow, suffered and then we'll recover. And then we're both cutting off each other's air supply. It's a lot of lovey-dovey stuff. And it seems that it was, according to, I guess, the band, I'm not sure how quote this is. I'm off Genius. I love Genius.com, by the way. It used to be called Rap Genius. Great for lyrics. It's a nice website and has cool interpretations by people and sometimes the artists. But it was definitely a conscious effort, according to them, to not be all over the place sonically and musically. Didn't want to spend 2 years recording the album. Bit of an over dysfunctional perfectionist. Embrace the imperfections and finish in less than a year. And that last song was actually written with VDC. But the next song coming up is Forever, and it's interesting. You're cold and severe as the rain. My eyes are forever doomed to cry over you. This is so eternal. Only forever. Only forever. And then acting comes up, too. Don't speak of golden dreams. You once had a chance to make things right. Gone are your friends in need when you broke their heart. So sad, so hopeless. And what I love about this album is the contrast between the dark lyrics and themes with these sort of twee, like independent, like cutesy sort of sounds with this mix of electronic. Now, of course, this song, Forever, I wouldn't say it's the most positive, sonically at least, right? Also lyrically. It's interesting, About regrets, darkness, lyrics, I will never fall in love again. Sorry you've lost your mind. Please don't make me waste my life. And you have like these twee, like indie, like sweet vocals from Valerie. And of course, Roby sounding like Mordecai a little bit. I recall an interesting animation of Mordecai singing along the Mordecai X Twilight Sparkle from My Little Pony, Friendship is Magic. Mordecai, hey, if y'all know on the internet, y'all know how we do it. But it's crazy. It's him singing to acting, which is the one that's like, you know, you'll regret. Don't regret things, or you're regretting stuff. And we're gonna let y'all hear this for a second. But yeah, that's like my 2 cents on why I love this album. And we're going to talk more about the album, but I do think we have to at least discuss the whole point of why I decided to talk about this album and this topic of trying the debate around separating the art from the artist. I'm out here. Cold and severe as the rain. I can't hit that low note if I'm singing a lower octave, unfortunately. But I was looking at Rate Your Music after the band's breakup in January, or the disbanding. And essentially what happened was, on the Sweet Trip Instagram, Valerie made a post on the account saying, hey, I cannot continue Sweet Trip. I have to leave immediately for personal reasons. I'm so sorry. You know, I love you all. That type of stuff. People were like, what's going on? And basically, that sort of marked the end of the band. Because even Roby himself, as detestable as he is, said, if Valerie's gone, the band's done. The band was those 2 people. Everyone else was sort of just around it. But here's what happened. So on the Sweet Trip subreddit, you know, we're going to go on a little bit of Redditor territory. It appears that somebody who was Valerie's husband, what was his name again? Daniel Cooper, yeah. And the original post was removed, but it was essentially accusatory stuff towards Roby and sort of saying, oh yeah, Roby did some terrible stuff to Valerie. And then he sort of, apparently, the guy on the Discord, he actually made like a sock puppet account and basically was like, she's in a, what is it? Oh, I have to be careful with my words here. Seems like a secure dude, but one of his normal limits. Allowed them to record in a record in his album, allowed them to get matching band tattoos, would presumably have allowed them to tour. Solid. For a dude like that to use such strong language. Because it's interesting here. There's a petty Instagram post, and honestly, you know, as terrible as both Daniel and Valerie definitely felt, the guy even admitted, hey, I didn't really handle myself that well on the mic with regards to making these sort of posts. A bit vague, a little passive aggressive, which I totally understand. But essentially, one of the biggest things that people found out was that on their, would we call Seen Unseen the final album? Yeah, I would consider it an album. The album, their 4th album, which came after a very long delay in 2021, called A Tiny House and Secret Speeches Polar Equals. Track number 6 is called Eve Foolery, Mill 5. And I gotta skip this one because I gotta save that for the ending of the show. Sorry, you're gonna have to wait to hear that beautiful song. But, you know, that's an anagram for Valerie, love of my life. And this was made without her knowledge. And it appears that this entire album, Tiny House, what I'm gonna call it, although they did the musical parts, the lyrics and the titles and all that were done by Roby. So it seems that this whole album was intended as like a love letter to Valerie, this woman who has been in a very long marriage, right? Married for 12, with her husband for 17 years as a couple. So obviously that's weird. That's not right. That's creepy. And they've been friends for so long, her and Roby, 27-year friendship, whatever. Dear friend, not a partner. And it's interesting, too, because I was wondering about the same thing with Beach House. The band Beach House. I was reading an interview with their latest album. I'm totally blanking on the name here, but it was a really long album, right? And I found something really interesting where they're like, are you guys a couple? What's going on there? And they're just like, well, we are. We don't really subscribe to stuff. We've done stuff together. along those lines. But yeah, that's basically what they said. I sort of thought the same thing when I heard about this Valerie thing. I was like, oh lord, it better not be the guy. Unfortunately, it is. Entire latest Sweet Trip album, the infamous Allegram, his random doting interviews. Basically, this really long Reddit comment that sort of serves as the final piece to this whole breakup thing. And it apparently, well, not apparently. Basically, he was getting slack. The husband was getting flack on the internet, maybe for the way he conducted himself, maybe for other reasons. But long story short, according to him, I'm not going to go into details, but I will tell you this: Roby Burgos, in plain English, flat out assaulted my wife on January 22nd in her hotel room. Disgusting degenerate. Completely violated my wife's trust in him, destroyed their friendship, ended Sweet Trip, irrevocably damaged her sense of trust in men, deeply traumatized. It's horrendous. And this painted a really bad picture on the entire band almost for a lot of people, and that's where I go into the art from the artist thing. That is all I will say. Listen, I know I've talked a bit, I spent some time talking about this drama. What's done is done. The band is done. They released their last album, Seen Unseen, as a massive 3-hour-long compilation of a bunch of stuff they hadn't released as a goodbye note. You can buy merch, and it appears that from the record label, Roby has basically gone off the grid, totally MIA, not even speaking to the record company. And the record company's like, okay, well, he's still gonna get paid unless he signs away that, which people I think he should do. You know, obviously, a human being needs money, but I think it would give the fans some benefit. And also, you're still supporting Valerie, so you can still listen to the music and still support the band. But if you don't feel comfortable doing it, especially the Tiny House album, that one's, I'm basically totally put off from listening to it after hearing the stuff with, Roberto. Because, frankly, it's like crazy, It's crazy. It is crazy. That entire thing. But I'm going to go ahead and read the Rate Your Music review that made me inspired. Written on April 1st, 2022. He gave this album, and everyone else is giving it like 5 stars, 4.5, 3, 3.5, like a lot, right? It's got a 4.04 out of 5 from 12,000 ratings. Number 1 album of 2009. 166 overall. For comparison, VDC was number 1 from 2003, 4.05 out of 5, and 116. So they're basically sort of in the same realm, although I personally prefer You'll Never Know Why, because of the reasons I stated. I think VDC is a little bit drawn out. I think it's too scattered. I think Disco is a really good song. I think Pro Love Ad and Chocolate Matter are really good mixes of IDM, shoegaze, rock, all that cool stuff. But I think You Will Never Know Why is a better complete piece. And the songs are better songs, which is why I actually prefer stuff like The Bends on occasion to other stuff from Radiohead. Although, of course, my opinion shifts a little bit. My opinion on that is, am I going to sit down and listen to OK Computer as much as I'm going to listen to The Bends? No. Anyways, review. Written by Rippy Bits. Oh dear, the title. Sweet Trip's greatest strength has always been an ability to elicit emotion from the abstract. A knack for telling a story via imagery and feel, as opposed to exposition. All of this to say that this record, in light of recent news and knowing it's more than likely about the frontman watching the bandmate he was concerningly obsessed with get married, because with the husband saying that they've been married for 12 years, it was pretty likely that they were getting married slightly before, around the time this album was composed and released. So it's lost its magic. The ambiguity is gone. The point made all too clear to really find another interpretation beyond the deranged one, and the feeling of loneliness and longing that once defined this release has been altered permanently. Even if it still sounds great, even if its melodies stay with me for the long haul, it's going to be impossible to hear it as I once did. Ah well, R.I.P. And sincerely hope the involved parties, i.e. Valerie and her husband, find their peace. Edit. Yeah, now that we have the full story, this record is never going to be listenable again, let alone good. JFC Roby. there really hasn't been much else negative about that. Of course, October 2021, there's a half-star review. So straight. Stereolab softened so that only an empty shell remained. Nothing of the glorious noise experiment that was on their other record. I don't know how to say about that. I'm gonna let this run for a second. I personally, for this album specifically, I do not hold that. Tiny Houses, yes. And it seems that, it's from reading around, that the album was more about esoteric stuff than specifically obsessive and creepy as it might be. And I'm not opposed to the obsessive and creepy in music. I mean, I love Pinkerton for, whose ever sake. I would give that album a 10 out of 10 any day of the week. I even consider it a better overall album than Blue. And yes, I am a Weezer fan. I'm going to go out there and say it. I talked about it before. Listen, I don't care. My life's going great right now, right? I got a Weezer 2 shirt on right now. It says Weezer 2. There's Five Nights at Freddy's characters walking down what looks like Abbey Road. I had people taking pictures of it in my class. I got photos of it with my dear closest ones. It's, I'm living the life. And, as an aside, I was going to say this. I hope that everyone's doing well, mentally, physically. Finals week's coming up. If you're a student here, all my other friends from the East Coast and stuff are back home. It's not great. It is not great at all to me to be chilling here as a still here. But we're doing it right, and my life's gone pretty good. Things are going really good for me right now. Certain people and certain things have made that better. Those certain people may or may not have been on the show. That's all I'll give. Bass Tunes number 1. You're listening to Bass Tunes, KUCI 88.9 FM in Irvine. Had to pull it up one more time for the real ones. But yeah, I would definitely say that if any album, I like his album still. I'm still going to listen to it. But legitimately, I will say, all this stuff coming out put me off talking about it for the show because I really, really like You Will Never Know Why. Of course, honestly, half the time this show's like Baby's first Rate Your Music episode, and I'm sorry, all right? I like the same music. I was on RYM looking for top shoegaze and IDM, and guess what popped up? VDC. And then I checked out You Will Never Know Why, and it turns out my good friends, Maria and Dennis more so than Maria, is actually a mod on the Sweet Trip Discord. Rest in peace. They both love Sweet Trip, and I didn't know that. We talked about it. So shout out to Maria and Dennis. Love y'all both if y'all are listening right now. If y'all ever listen. I was going to actually have Dennis say some words. I even invited him to come on the show. Wasn't comfortable with that. It's all good. But I would love to have any guests on the show. All my homies, anybody. Even my own mother. My own father. But I don't think they listen to the music I listen to. Although I will say my mother did text me after doing episode 3. I loved The Loveless. So we're winning. One moment. It's a pretty hard vocal exercise to do this show, I have to say. It really is. I'm not going to lie to you, man. Having to do that, I'm exhausted, but we have to put in the effort. But I was going to talk about other artists, but I kind of primarily talked about Sweet Trip, didn't I? Yeah. Well, the other artists I was thinking about were like Michael Jackson and XXXTentacion, but both of those artists were dead, and both of them were accused of, and, well, sort of had proof in different levels. I mean, X, from the way he talked, the way photos came out and carried himself, it really did seem likely that he wasn't the greatest guy. Violent, abusive towards his partner. Not great, right? Michael Jackson, a lot of lawsuits about bad stuff. The truth about that is unknown. Some people, it's interesting. I don't know. All I know is he's dead, and the music slaps. R. Kelly, he did some very bad stuff. Horrendous. Probably the worst out of anybody here. Any of those three I was talking about. he's not getting any money anymore. He's in prison. So I'm still going to listen to Trapped in the Closet. I downloaded it from a place. I have it on my computer. All 45 minutes of it, or however long it is. It's probably even longer than that. I'm going to tell you something right now. If you want to laugh your butts off, pull up Trapped in the Closet. It used to be available on his YouTube page, not anymore. It's this hip-hop opera of music. It was absolutely absurd. It was just wow. So funny, so raunchy, so over the top. It's a rap opera if I ever did. Well, we can go ahead and take a look at the time we got left because, ooh, nice. I do want to play All Out with Acting, and that song is 7 minutes, and I want to give my co-host, or not my co-host, the person after me, Manna Young with her show, A Sunny Day in Orange. She told me she's got a phone interview coming up, so you better be excited for this one. It's going to be a banger. But yeah, I'm going to go ahead and say that life's going good for me right now, and I hope everyone's having a great day, great week, great month, great year, great whatever. We're nearing summer for all you UCI listeners out there, and some people might be back home in the Orange County area, Irvine area, Newport area. Shout out to everybody listening to this show right now. Shout out to you if you're listening to it on YouTube even. And thank you all so much for listening to episode 8 of Bass Tunes, airing on KUCI 88.9 FM in Irvine, hosted by Ari and Salimi. I'm going to play All Out with Acting by Sweet Trip. A 7-minute long thing. And we're doing it on the vinyl because the vinyl is great. Shout out to vinyl. Shout out to everyone listening right now. I love y'all. Thanks a bunch.
The opinions and views expressed on this program do not reflect those of KUCI, its management, or the UC Board of Regents. For more information about the show or other programs on KUCI, please log on to kuci.org for the latest program schedule.